Hi, I'm Dom Hind, and fuck, I'm nearly 50. Actually, I'm 48 now, and lately I've been thinking a lot about my brain. Not in a dramatic way, just in that quiet, creeping way where you start to question things. Like, why can't I remember simple things sometimes? Why do I walk into a room and forget why I'm actually there? Why does it feel harder to focus than it used to? And then I start wondering, is it just age, hormones, life, or is it something else? Because if I'm honest, I spend a lot of time on screens. My laptop, my desktop, my phone, scrolling, working, switching between things constantly. And I've started to genuinely question, is my screen time making me a bit stupid? Or at least a little less sharp, more distracted, and more forgetful? And then I look at my kids and I think, what is this doing to them? Their attention, their memory, their ability to sit with boredom, to think deeply, to just be. Because this isn't something we grew up with. This is new. And we're all just kind of figuring it out as we go, trying to set the rules, trying to find the balance, trying to not feel like we're getting it completely wrong. And then on the flip side, I've been experimenting with things like creatine, and I actually feel like it's helping with my brain fog and with giving me some clarity, which makes me think even more curiously about what's really going on with our brains, what's helping, what's hurting, and what actually matters. And one of the things that really hit me reading Mark's book was the idea that it's not just about screens, it's about what screens are replacing. That space, that stillness, the boredom, the real connection. Because when you actually step back, you realize how little space we give ourselves or our kids to just be, to sit, to think, to feel something fully. We fill every gap with noise, scrolling, stimulation, and maybe that's part of the problem. Because I don't want to overreact, but I also don't want to ignore something that could have a real impact on us, which is why today's conversation feels so important. So let's get into it. Yay! Dr. Mark Williams is a neuroscientist, author, and one of Australia's leading voices on the impact of technology and screens on the brain. His research focuses on how digital devices affect attention, memory, learning, and behaviour, particularly in children and adolescents. He's spent years studying how constant screen exposure is changing the way our brains function and what that means for how we think, focus, and connect. His book explores this in a way that both is confronting and incredibly practical. And I can say it's incredibly practical because I've just finished reading it. And it helps parents and individuals understand what's actually happening beneath the surface and what we can do about it. Because this isn't just about kids, it's about all of us. Our focus, our memory, our relationships, our ability to be present. And the reality is, most of us know something feels off. We just don't fully understand why or what to do about it. Dr. Mark Williams, welcome to Fuck, I'm Nearly 50. To start, if you were to introduce yourself at a dinner party, how would you introduce yourself?
That's an interesting question because my job now has changed a lot over the last 10 years or so. So I was a professor of cognitive neuroscience. I still am a professor officially. But during COVID, I actually took voluntary redundancy to start working more in the public because I wanted to spend more time getting out the message about our brains and how our brains actually work. So now I'm an author. I'm still an honorary professor of cognitive neuroscience, which means I studied the brain using neuroimaging techniques. And I'm a speaker, so I go to a lot of schools and organisations talking about the brain and how we use it or how we're not using it in a good way.
Yes.
So yeah, it's sort of complicated. But that happens when you get older, right? You keep
It's just like,
evolving.
yeah,
And it's like,
which
where
part?
do I?
Yeah, where do
what
I
do you
start?
actually want to know about?
When you talk about screens, because I was just thinking about this, what is a screen? Is it just phone or is it TV, iPad? Like, what is the extent of a screen?
Yeah, it depends on what you're talking about. So a screen really can be anything from a TV all the way through to just the phone, or even the smartwatches,
Yes.
which I don't wear.
Yeah.
Or a smartwatch. So it can be anything from those extremes, or even the glasses, of course.
Oh,
Now
of
we've got the
course.
smart glasses
Yes.
now. So it constantly evolves. So it's really difficult to say which is which. But they all impact, but they impact in different ways.
Yes.
So that's what we've got to be careful of. And
Yeah.
it's a lot more nuanced than just screens.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Yeah. And every screen has its own.
Positives and negatives.
Yeah. I'm glad that you said that. Let's start broad. What are screens actually doing to our brains?
So again, it depends on the screen. But if you're
Yep.
talking the mobile phones, which is
Yeah,
what
let's talk
most
about
people
phone.
are really
Yep.
concerned about, they're making us dumber, really. Let's
Okay.
be honest.
Yep.
We know, so there's been what we call a Flynn effect, where our intelligence has been getting greater and greater with every generation. And IQ tests have had to be altered slightly to make them a little harder,
Yep.
because you need an average of 100. In the last 15 years, it's actually gone the opposite way. So we're actually getting dumber. And so this is the first generation that will actually be dumber than their parents were, which is really, really scary.
It's so scary.
Really scary. And then we have attentional problems. We've got this huge increase in attentional problems. We've got a huge increase in our body mass, right? We've got obesity is going through the roof, and we know also bone density is decreasing
Yes.
the next generation quite considerably, which is also really concerning. And then we've got a huge increase in Alzheimer's disease and these things, which can also be linked, especially in early onset Alzheimer's, dementia, early onset dementia, which is affecting 35 to 45-year-olds, which is really scary.
Yeah.
And in 2 years, we saw a 400% increase in those individuals. And it's specific to those individuals who are the first group of people who have had devices for basically most of their lives, not all of their lives, but most of their lives, which is really scary. And, you can go on. There's attentional problems, there's mental health issues.
Oh, yeah. There's so many issues, aren't there?
There are.
And we keep just turning back to it.
Yeah. And it's so ubiquitous now in society, right? Everyone has one that I think it's become just part of life. But I get really frustrated by people saying that's the way it is now.
Yeah.
And so let's just leave it. When I was a kid, smoking was huge. I started smoking when I was 12, right? And in my high school, they had a smoking room for the year 12 students.
What?
Which you wouldn't even imagine these days. And then the government realised this was a big problem, and there were several lawsuits and so on. And so things changed, and we banned, or we didn't ban the smokes, but those smokes were already banned, but they actually started doing something about it.
Yeah.
And I never gave up smoking until I was about 30, right?
Right.
But that was the next generation that never actually took up smoking. And so I see it like that. We've got to this point where it is damaging. We know it's significantly damaging. And so we need to put in some sort of control so that the next generation won't be affected by it.
Yeah. I think because that was one of the things in your book that when I read that the next generation are actually going to be dumber than us, it's actually really concerning, because all we want is for our kids to be smarter, better, and change the world or do something that we haven't been able to do.
Yeah, and it's not just the smartphones, right? That's also the edutech, right? We've got all this educational technology in schools. We've got BYD, which is the craziest thing, because I've yet to find an educational app which is actually results in better education of the students than actually having a teacher in front of them. And we have these, and we have more devices in schools than any other country in the world, which is just ridiculous.
Yeah.
And we have the worst behavioural issues of any other country in the world. And it's a result of the fact that we've got these devices in front of the kids, which increases cortisol, makes them more stressed. And they're not connecting with the teacher because they've got a screen between them. And so therefore they don't have the same relationship with the teacher. And so therefore we have these behavioural issues, and we wonder why. And we have our students now, when they leave school at the end of year 12, are equivalent to halfway through year 11
Yep.
from 10 years ago. They're a year and a half behind where they were 10, 15 years ago. And all the data is showing that. So we have big problem we've got to deal with.
It's a massive problem. And you were just talking about it before. You were involved in getting the age of social media lifted.
Yes.
And also now helping over in the UK as well.
Yes.
What is the driver for you wanting to be involved with that?
I've seen the damage. When I was at Macquarie University full-time, I actually volunteered to go out to low SES schools. We got funding to do that. And I spent a lot of time, that was quite a few years ago, going to low SES schools. And I saw the damage that was being caused in these areas, these rural and remote areas and communities and so on. And that really concerned me. And that's when I sort of started doing research. And also I had children who were in primary school, and their principal came to me and said, I'm thinking of doing BYOD, introducing BYOD into primary school.
BYOD, bring your own device.
Bring your own devices into the primary school. And he'd seen me on Catalyst.
Yes.
And in relation to something completely different, but in relation to the brain. So he wanted to chat to me. So we chatted, and I convinced him this wasn't a good idea.
Yeah.
Which meant he then went to his director. And the director was like, well, what's going on here? This is what the department wants. And then his director then chatted to me and was like, can you talk to all my principals?
Yeah.
And so it sort of exploded from there.
Yeah.
And it was like, maybe I can make a difference here.
Yeah.
And I realized that there's a lot of nonsense out there in relation to the brain as well, right? There's a lot of, really silly ideas that just aren't true.
Okay. Like what's one?
The funniest one I've ever heard is this idea that I forget which eye it is, but if you look into one eye, someone will trust you more.
Oh, yeah, right.
Because of the way the babies, which if you had any knowledge of how the visual system actually works, which is it goes through the LGN and then it splits up, that just doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
There's no, which is the funniest one I've heard, but there's a lot of other ones.
Yeah. Okay, good. So it was that you knew that you could actually make a difference. That's pretty amazing to get involved, because you knew that even one voice can make a difference.
Yeah, and that's what's been amazing. When I was working in Macquarie and I was going out to schools, I would get, after I've been doing it for a few years, I would actually get students arrive at Macquarie University and come to me and say, hey, I saw you at this event and I'd never thought of going to university before, and here I am.
Oh, that's amazing.
And my siblings are also thinking now of going to university, even though we never have it. And that to me was like, that's...
That makes you feel good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does.
And from there on, it was like, well, hang on, there is. And
there is hope.
Yeah, there is hope. And I do things and get lots of emails from people, and I'm just like, wow, which I love. Yeah. And if I haven't replied to an email that you've sent me, I'm sorry. I do try to get to them all, but occasionally I get a little overwhelmed.
Yeah, you need to stay away from screens.
Yes.
What struck me about reading your book is that it's not just about what screens are doing to us, it's about what we're losing in the process. The connection, the living, just being, the interpretation. Is that what you have, if you boil it down to, is that what you think is happening?
Yeah, we're missing out. Our brains use it or lose it paradigm, right?
Yeah.
We've known that for a long time. Well, not that long, but a fairly long time now. And so the more you do, the better your brains become.
Yeah.
And the less you do, the worse your brains become, basically, which is why, one of the great examples of that is nursing homes. We used to put people in nursing homes, and we'd put them in front of the TV and we'd feed them and we'd put them to bed, and then we'd put them in front of the TV, and they would die much more quickly. And then we realised that wasn't great, and so we started organising things for them to do and gave them choices over what they could eat and got people in to play musical instruments. And we found that they'd live 10, 15 years longer, and they wouldn't get Alzheimer's disease and neurodegenerative diseases so quickly and so on, right? Because they were using their brains, and so therefore survive longer. And it's no different for any of us, really. Yeah. And when you're on a device, you're not using your brain. You're defaulting to what's on the device. Yes. And so you're not exercising the things you need to be exercising, and you're missing out on a huge amount of time. Mm. And it's really sad. Like I did volunteer for a period of time in my earlier years, at a hospice, end-of-life hospice, and this was for people who were in the last 2 weeks before they pass away.
Right.
And I volunteered there and worked with the family members and so on, and also with the people who are actually dying. And I don't think I ever heard somebody who was dying ever mention that they were upset that they hadn't spent enough time watching cat videos or...
Yeah.
Right? It's not.
Yeah, it's not
What
it's
they
not,
miss
yeah,
is
yeah,
their family.
yeah, yeah.
And
It's
the time
connection.
and the connection.
Yeah.
I wish I had spent more time with my family. I wish I had spent more time with this person. I wish I had got in touch with that person who I lost
Yeah.
contact with. I wish I had spent more time
It's
with people.
It's really interesting, and I'm observing it a lot more. Where if I'm even before we came here, I had a cup of tea. I didn't look at my phone because I'm like, I just refuse to look at my phone when I've got a moment to myself. And I love observing and watching, but everyone else is on their phones. And I think, to try and have a connection, even with a stranger, if they're on their phone, it's so hard to do.
It is. And it impacts so many parts of our lives because we don't get to meet people.
That's it.
And we don't get to talk to people,
Yeah.
whether it's at work. I mean, work, we have this huge problem now with people only staying with an employer for 3 or 4 years, right?
Yeah.
And then
Even
they leave.
less in some industries.
Yeah, much, much less.
Yeah.
And a lot of those because they have no connection
Yeah.
to the workplace because they don't know who they work with because they're on their phones all the time.
Or remote or work from
remote.
home.
Or these
Yeah.
things. Yeah. So they don't have those relationships that we actually need. And then productivity's gone down. We know productivity is much worse now than it was 15, 20 years ago, which is because of the distractions and all those things. But it's also because we're not talking to each other about what we're doing. So we don't know who to go to or what's actually already been solved and trying to solve things ourselves rather than having people that we can actually talk to and so on. And that's both personal lives and at work.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, everywhere.
In personal life, you need people to support you. And loneliness, we know, is now a huge rate of loneliness, both in younger kids but also in adults, which is sad. And then the older we get, the more lonely we get.
Yeah. And I think in that middle age group as well is where, kids are leaving home. You've lost the connection with their schools. And you do get quite lonely in that age group if you don't have those connections that are there.
That are already there, yeah. And we need to have those connections before, because it's going to go bad, right? We're always going to have hiccups. There's also always shits that's going to happen. Sorry, I'm not allowed to say that.
No, you can.
I shoot my hand given
There is fuck in the title.
Yeah, it's going to happen, right? We're going to have bad periods.
Yeah.
And unless you've got it set up before that, then it's going to be really hard. And if you have it set up before that, then it's not going to be as hard because you're going to have people who support you.
You can
have
talk
people
to.
there. Yeah.
And also, I was talking to someone yesterday about expanders. So, the expanders are the people that do actually lift you up. And, you have a 5-minute conversation with them and you feel great again. Yeah. And, making sure that you do have those expanders in your life because you're right. The shit gets real and you do need someone who can actually lift you up as well.
Yeah. And as long as you are as well, right?
Absolutely.
It's about giving back too.
Absolutely. It can't just be one way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You take it from someone else and then you give it to someone else. And
Very much.
Let's get communities going again where everyone supports each other.
Yeah. You talk a lot in the book about creating the right conditions for brain health, not just removing the screens. Can you explain what the conditions actually are?
So, yeah, that's a great question. It's about boundaries, right? We've got to set boundaries for ourselves and we've got to set boundaries for our kids. And we've got to be demonstrating to them what we expect of them because kids, especially teenagers, I have 2 teenagers, teenagers will listen to, will do about 10% of what you say and they'll do about 90% of what you do, right? And they do copy us constantly.
Yes.
And it's through the mirror neuron system, but it is a thing that happens. And so we need to be demonstrating that this is not a good thing. And so you can't be sitting there on your phone and telling your teenager to get off their phone. That's just, and so you need to be demonstrating what you want from them. So setting up your house in a way that is best for you and for them to be doing things that are important for us, which is actually interacting with each other. Because we've got to remember that our brains haven't changed in the last 35,000 years, right? It's not, evolution doesn't happen in 1 or 2 generations.
Yeah.
So our brains are the same as they were when we were hunter-gatherers, and that meant we were spending a lot of time with each other, supporting each other and communicating with each other, and we would work for 4 or 5 hours, and then the rest of the time we'd socialise. And that's what's really important for us. And if you look at the blue zones, right, the blue
Yeah,
zones, the one thing consistent across all of those is the socializing.
Yeah.
They spend time talking to each other. They spend time making dinner together. They spend time talking over dinner and spend a long time eating their food, right?
Yeah.
Because they're talking to each other, they're interacting with each other.
Yeah, it's not like a 15-minute dinner and then you're out.
No,
Like it
and
is.
it's especially not a 15-minute dinner while everyone's looking at their
Yeah.
phones and then out, or while the TV's on and then out, right? It's the conversation, real conversations. Nothing upsets me more than going to a cafe and seeing a couple there with their kids.
Oh my!
Kids are on the
Yeah,
devices.
it's terrible.
Very sad. Or a kid in a pram and the phone's in front of them.
Yeah,
It's
terrible.
really, really sad.
Do you know, after reading the book, so I've only just finished it. So this Friday night, we're actually having family friends, so the kids can actually bring one of their friends to dinner.
Oh, nice.
So every Friday night now is going to be kids bring one of the dinner. They get the bus home, and then we all sit down and have dinner. And then they may actually make, which is I'm going to absolutely regret doing it, but letting them make the dessert.
Nice.
So, you know, like it, because at least it's no screens, but it also made me realize that no phones at the table ever. Like we're just not doing that. But as soon as the kids get home, so that there is, I mean, the behavior, that was something that really did hit me as well, is your behavior, they mirror rather than what you tell them.
Oh, yes.
And I think if we are on our phones all the time, they're going to think it's okay to do the same and do it. So it is, as soon as they're home, no phones.
Yeah.
Phones go away.
And I know some people say, but hang on, I've got to be on my phone for work or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's fine as long as you're honest with whoever it is you're with.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Sorry, I've got to just check this email
Yes.
for work, da-da-da-da.
It's not
And
constant.
then you expect that of them.
Yes.
And so if they pick up their phone, my son has a phone,
Yeah.
14, and he'll always say, oh, sorry, Dad, I've just got to check because so-and-so was going to text me because we were going to get it in the courts for thing, right?
Yeah,
And I know what he's actually doing on his phone.
Yeah.
Rather than just the default of, I'm just going to
Yeah, I'm just scrolling
away,
Yeah.
whatever it happens to be. And yes, you may be working, which is fine, but make sure everyone around you
communicate it.
knows that.
Yeah. And I think that is a big thing, because then it shows that you've got respect about boundaries. This is what I'm doing, but I will be off soon.
Yes. Yeah.
What are some of the other things, like the daily movement and this unstructured time? I think unstructured time is a big one, because we absolutely just load our kids up, and also us up, with so much stuff. What's that doing to us?
It's putting us on high stress constantly, right? We've got this
Yeah.
high stress level, which is releasing cortisol, because cortisol is released when we're on stress. And cortisol is actually really bad for our system for a long period of time. And so we're in this constant state of stress because we're constantly, what's next? Let's go.
What are we missing out on?
Yeah. Plus, you've got to be bored to be innovative and creative, right?
Yeah.
You've got to actually allow yourself to sit in the moment, which is really, really important. And also, kids I think kids these days have a lot of trouble working out what they want to be, right? Because they never actually get a chance to think about what they want to be. They're forced into all these different whatevers.
Yeah.
And then that's what they think is them, and that's what they should be. Whereas giving kids time to just be in themselves and play and do things like that, they'll work out what they actually want to be and what they want to do, rather than what you think they should be doing.
Yeah, it's one of the things that I constantly get told is, I'm bored, and I'm like, you can't be bored if you're not boring. So go and find something to do.
Yeah, I love that, son. And that's when the good stuff happens.
Well, absolutely.
I remember as a teenager, we used to pull our bikes apart and rebuild them.
Oh, yeah.
Strange things and all those sorts of things.
Yeah.
Because you were bored, which is great.
Yeah.
And you find stuff to do.
Yeah.
And sometimes it was silly, and sometimes you do something you probably shouldn't have done, but you were learning during that process.
Absolutely.
Really important.
After reading your book, I've actually this term, and I've got the Tupperware, like the coloured tubs. It's called the boredom box.
Mm-hmm.
So I've actually filled it with like coupons, like, go for a walk or do whatever, as well as like a puzzle book and some colouring in pen, like just, the stuff that they have to actually go through, look at it and go, okay, I'm not going to be bored. I'm actually going to be doing something. So rather than watching a TV show or being on a screen, they can go to their boredom box and actually use their brain in that way, or give it some space anyway.
Yeah, no, that's great.
Yeah.
And they're the best, right? You need a space where you've got all that stuff and board games and
Board games, absolutely. Card games. I mean,
and there's some great board games and card games out there now.
Oh, yeah.
There's some really cool new ones.
Yeah. The card games are interesting. My son will not go out to dinner without a pack of cards.
Awesome.
Yeah. Which is great. Until he wants to play blackjack at the dinner table. I'm like, okay. Why is having that unstructured time so critical for our development?
Yeah, so there's what we've got in our brains is basically we've got what we call a working memory.
Yes.
Yeah, which is sort of like your consciousness, what you're aware of at any one moment in time. And that's really limited. And I don't think people realize how limited that is. And that's limited to what we call 7 slots plus or minus 2, or used to be when we originally studied it. So phone numbers, for example, used to be limited to 6 numbers because you needed to use the 6 slots to remember the 6 numbers, and then you needed another slot to dial the phone. Whereas now they're not because we've got much of. We think that working memory has actually dropped down to about 4 slots now because we don't use it in the same way. But your attention determines what goes into that working memory. And your information in that working memory can either come from your long-term memory, which we know is completely unlimited, right? It's never actually, no one's filled up their long-term memory. So that's amazing, much bigger than any computer we've got. And that holds all the stuff that we've ever done in our lives. If we've held it for long enough in our working memory to get transferred to a temporary store, so it can get transferred to that long-term memory when we're sleeping.
Yeah.
And you, in your working memory, you can either pull stuff out of your long-term memory and use it and then stick it back in, or you can get information from the world. So we're talking to each other. So we're listening to each other and interpreting that information with our working memory.
Right.
And that's why we're not noticing other things around us.
Yeah.
Because we're focusing on that. But we need to be pulling it out of our long-term memory because that reinforces what's in our long-term memory as well. And that only happens when you're bored, right? Or when you're thinking about something, when you're sitting by yourself and you're thinking about something, or you're trying to come up with new ideas or whatever. That happens when you're doing that. Or if you're having, right, we never have discussions with anybody anymore because we look it up. Whereas what we need to do is be going, so-and-so won the, 100 meters Olympics in 19 whatever, and you're like, no, they didn't. It was so-and-so. No, it wasn't. They were the year before.
And this is the logic. This is the reasoning.
Yeah, this is the reasoning for it. This is right. And that's all bringing it out of your long-term memory. Whereas today, if someone says, oh, so-and-so, and then you look it up and go, no, they didn't.
Yeah.
And there's none of that.
There's no,
so there's no reinforcing of our long-term memory, which needs to be done regularly. So we have a strong long-term memory because that's where innovation and creativity happens.
Okay.
Right? You can't be innovative and creative unless you've got lots of information in your long-term memory to connect different ideas and concepts together with.
So, and because we're always on, we're not getting that space.
We never get that space. We never get that space to exercise our long-term memory.
So we need to
do that much, much more.
Slow
down.
Permission to pause. That's my favourite thing at the moment, permission to pause.
Yeah, because we're really good at innovation creativity, right? Computers don't do that.
No.
AI doesn't do that.
No.
AI is just regurgitating what's already out there, which is pretty dumb. Whereas we're really good at being innovative and creative, but we're slower at it. Yeah. And so we've got to slow down and allow ourselves to do that and then allow the computers to do the fast stuff away from us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Rather than being on and trying to do the fast stuff
all the time. Yeah. I've honestly, I've genuinely started to wonder if my own screen use is making me slower or have my own brain fog. Do you, and I know that I'm getting older, but do you think it is, it obviously is affecting adults just as much as it's affecting kids too?
Yes. And I hear a lot of people say that, right? Oh, but I'm getting older. Yeah. But getting older doesn't make your brain slow down. Getting older doesn't impact your brain negatively unless you've got a neurodegenerative disease, in which case you've got to go and see someone and get drugs for it. And that's not most of us. Yeah. And so if you do feel as though your brain's slowing down, then there's something you're not doing, which is causing that. Yeah. And what it probably is not spending enough time in the real world. Because when you're on a device, you're not exercising your brain. Yeah. And you've got to exercise your brain to keep it healthy so that you don't get those neurodegenerative diseases later on. It's a mouthful. And so, if you feel like you're not concentrating as well and all those sorts of things, then it could be that. It also could be hormonal, right? You do go through perimenopause, and that can cause it, but that's temporary. It's a short period of time, and then it should go away.
Yeah, great.
So it shouldn't be a long-term thing.
Okay.
So if it's been for a while, then it's probably due to the devices.
Yeah.
And also, even if it is due to the perimenopause, you want to be really careful that you don't have it also impacted by the devices, because that's going to cause an even bigger impact, right? You've got a double whammy. It's causing a much bigger issue for you. And so you need to consider that as well.
Okay, good. Yeah, all right. So I think the message out of that is pause.
Pause. Yeah, everybody.
Put the phone down. Pause. Put the phone down.
Spend time in the real world. It's actually really wonderful.
Yeah.
There's some amazing stuff out there.
Yeah.
And it's much more relaxing. And it's really important for us. And there's very little on the devices, which is interesting.
Yeah.
Most of it's nonsense. Let's be honest.
Sorry,
I know you put this online, and I turn around and say, don't.
I agree.
There is some good stuff.
No, there is some good stuff.
Most of it's AI.
It's interesting. Even as you were saying that, like just being in nature, being surrounded by amazing trees, like that, it grounds me. And I think that we have lost that ability to find something in the real world that does actually ground people, because we think that we've got to be on the device for the 7,000 WhatsApp messages that really just Harry's lost his tie or Susan's lost something, and they take up that time, but it's really not important.
No. And we do know that being in nature actually is really good for our brains, right?
Yeah.
There's lots of research now showing that it increases your cognitive capacity, increases your attentional capacity, it increases your memory capacity, your ability to retain information. It improves your innovation creativity. And that's only like half an hour. After half an hour, they've shown that innovation creativity goes through the roof, as long as you don't have a device on you. So they've actually shown.
What, even in your pocket?
Yeah, even in your pocket.
Really?
Yeah. So they've shown that if you go for a walk, bushwalk, just for half an hour, it'll improve all those things that quickly, which is quite amazing. But if you've got a phone in your pocket, it doesn't happen.
Wow.
Yeah. So we've got to leave the phones behind.
And what about if you've got your watch going, okay, how far? It's just as bad. So you've just got to...
You turn it off and put it in your backpack, and that seems to get rid of the effects.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. That's interesting to know.
Yeah.
Okay, good. That's something I need to do. What age, just going back to the kids, what age does this or do the screens have an impact, or is it just on use as soon as they start using them?
Yeah, so it is just use. There's horrendous data now showing that young children who are on a device or on a screen, they have abnormal development of their white matter tracts and frontal wedges of their brain. So their actual brain changes occurring, which is really scary because their brain's developing at that early age. So they need to be off the devices and in the real world. And then the more you're on a device, the more likely you are to have those brain changes as well as you get older. Because your brain, as I said, it's use it or lose it throughout your whole life. And so there's those really important years from 0 to 25, because the brain doesn't stop changing until you're 25, where you're not going to develop these abilities because you're not using them. But then after that, you can lose them because you're not constantly exercising them, right? It's no different to fitness.
No, exactly.
So therefore, you got to keep fit, and you got to eat well, and you got to drink water, and you got to socialise.
Just another thing on the long list.
On the long list,
with the and I don't know, we chatted before about seeing the kids in the prams with a screen. So many people will say, yeah, but it's just easy. Like, is that, what do you think when someone says it's just easy? Is that...
It is easy, but the problem is easy when they're young causes huge problems when they're old. I work for I do volunteer work with Kokoda Foundation. They do a digital detox program with teenagers, which is... And I work with the parents when they do that. I do a session with the parents. And, seeing those teenagers, if they had done it, the hard stuff early, they wouldn't have that really, really hard stuff later on. And, there's the anorexia nervosa and bulimia nervosa. I did a lot of research in that area. And that was where I first got involved in the social media ban because of what was going on there. There's so many aspects to it that are causing problems. And so, yes, it's easy, but it's going to cause much more problems, and it's going to
Yeah.
be much harder later on. Whereas if you do what's slightly harder when they're young, and they're not young for long. I mean, I
Yeah.
miss my kids being young. I mean, I love them as teenagers as well, but it was so quick, right?
Yeah, it
And
is so quick.
spending that time with them when they're young is going to make it so much easier when they're older.
I think something you say in the book is the investment that you make, and you need to consider it to be an investment that you make in them early, means that it pays off massively later in life.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it is
it
is hard at that early stage, but maybe the investment needs to be there.
Yes, and even the investment there means that you've all probably seen it, right? Taking an iPad or thing off a young kid is really, really hard, right?
Yeah.
But if they never get you never have to take it
No,
off it.
that's
So
it.
don't give it to them, and then you won't have that struggle later on. And there's lots of evidence now that the devices are causing ADHD in a lot of kids, right?
Yeah, right.
There's genetic form of ADHD, but there is, another issue there, which is we've got this huge increase in ADHD, and we know that the younger child's given a device, or the more time they spend on a device, the more likely they will end up being diagnosed with ADHD.
Yeah.
So we need to be careful about that as well, right? There is
The investment of time, or not even the time that you need to try and work out whether you treat or how you manage it, that's a lot more than that initial investment up front.
And the expense.
Oh, expense, yes. What role does dopamine play in screen use and overuse?
Yeah, dopamine, there's a misunderstanding, I think, out there in the world. This is another misunderstanding around dopamine. Dopamine actually doesn't make us feel good, which is wrong. Dopamine actually makes us search for whatever it is that we just had because we want to actually have more of it, right? It's actually about search. And so, for example, the reason it evolved basically was that, you would have been walking around and you would have tried some berries, which would have tasted good.
Yeah.
And so dopamine would be released. So you'd search for more of those berries because they're really good for you.
Yeah,
so you'd eat more of them. And then you search for more and then you eat more of them. And then you get satiated, you get full. And so you'd move on, right? Whereas when you're on a device, you get a reward because you're on the device, right? They're very good at rewarding us for that. And dopamine's released to make us search for more of that. And so we search for more of it, and then we get more of it, more dopamine, which makes us search for more of it. And then that keeps going. But you never get satiated, right? You never get full of it. And so you're constantly wanting that and wanting that and wanting that. And the real world isn't like that.
No.
Right? The real world is that we occasionally get rewards, and when we do, we search for more of those until we get full, and then we stop, which doesn't happen when you're on a device.
Yeah. And the instant gratification, even just with my kids, I see the instant gratification, like I've got to get it now. And I'm like, no, you have to save. You've got to save if you want something.
Yes. But that's what they're trained for, right? They're trained for this constant, and that's not the real world. Again, it's not what actually happens in the real world. And so we need to train them for the real world because that's where they're actually going to live.
Yes. Well, let's hope that they live in the real world. Yes. Are kids more vulnerable to this than adults?
Yes, because they haven't yet developed the ability to inhibit it. So your frontal lobes don't fully develop until you're 25, plus or minus 2 years. And so you don't fully develop your executive functions, which is your ability to inhibit response and make decisions about what you want. And also you haven't developed your full character, right? Who you actually are and what you want to be and what's important to you and what's not important to you. And you learn all that during your first 25 years or so. We keep learning, of course, later on, but a lot of it's developed during those first 25 years. And that you learn through trial and error, right? I like hanging out with that person, or I don't like hanging out with that person. No, that person's fun. And I like doing those things and I don't like doing those things. And that makes me feel a bit odd and I'm going to avoid that in the future. And if you're not doing all those things that we should be doing, and you're just on the device, then that's all you know. And so you're going to develop this idea that that's what I want to be.
Yeah.
Is this person who sits on a device all the time.
Yeah.
And does this all the time. And this is not actually good for us long term. And plus, what are you going to do for a living if this is what you do? Yeah. There aren't any jobs.
No.
Scrolling.
No. There used to be game testers and everyone wanted to be a game tester, but, I don't think they're
very,
anymore.
very rare.
Yeah.
I saw a thing that there's a lot of people now, well, not now, there was for a little while, where schools were getting kids to also do gaming because there was those gamers that were making big money being gamers on and it's supposed to be, it's harder to become one of those than it is to become a professional golfer. It's like really difficult, crazy difficult, and we don't
so just don't do it.
Just don't do it.
I love some of the simple ideas in the book, like tech-free times, home, phones away at meals, going for walks together. I love the going for walks together. Or just creating small moments of connection. What are some of the ones that you do in your life as small moments of connection with your family that you go, these are the best things that we can do?
Yeah. So I've got a teenage daughter and a teenage boy.
Yep.
And they're very different individuals. And so with my son loves playing basketball.
Yep.
And so we'll often go down, there's some great courts near our house. It's a government, the local government built, which is thank you.
Yeah.
Because they're awesome. And a lot of teenagers go there and play. And so I'll often go down there and play basketball with him, which is fantastic because he'll chat to me while we're playing basketball and he'll rib me because I'm getting older and slower. And nothing... gets a teenage boy going more than beating their dad, which is fantastic. And so that's one of the things I love doing with him. And he doesn't take his phone when we do that. And I'll take my phone and I'll leave it in the car.
Yeah.
And then with my daughter, usually the thing that works really well is going for a drive, because you're not confronting then, right?
No.
To sit down with a teenager and try to talk like this is just impossible because you're facing them and they get very anxious about that. And so going for a drive and she puts on the music that she likes to listen to, and we both love music and any genre I love listening to. And so we'll talk about the music, and because we're both looking forwards rather than looking at each other, she'll really open up over that. And that works really well. And now she's got her learners. It works even better because I can sit in the I don't have to drive. And we
Does
can
it
chat.
work better though? Like, don't you get stressed and go, oh my gosh?
No, she's pretty good. Well, most of the time she's pretty good. Sometimes, she starts singing along to something, and I'm like,
don't stop. Look, eyes on the road.
Yeah, eyes on the road. Yeah.
I think it is. In the book, it actually made me realize that I do not have enough one-on-one time with my kids, and like pure one-on-one, not with the two of them, just one-on-one. And it's something that I spoke to them about over the holidays and said, okay, we need to go and do something. What do you want to go and do? And it was great. My son, because we love going on a bushwalk, and there's this beautiful tree behind us, which we call the brain tree. So we're actually now going to do just a loop of that once a week, just to go for a walk and touch the brain tree and get back into nature. But it was a good reminder that, having that one-on-one time is really important, particularly if you've got multiple kids.
Yeah, it is. It's really important because there's always a competition between the kids, right?
Always.
And so you've got this set up, and they'll nag at each other. And my kids love each other, but they have fights, like serious fights. And so trying to get them to be honest with me when the other one's there is really hard.
Oh, yeah. Well, because then the other one will remember it.
Get them later on and all the rest of it. So, one-on-one time is really important.
And so with this, what is the biggest mistakes that adults are making with their screens?
No, any. Number one is treating the notifications as though they're more important than who's in front of you, right? I think the number one thing we got to get back to, I don't know, I've been thinking about writing an etiquette book because I think we need etiquette for the 21st century.
Yeah, that'd be a good one.
Yeah, there's just no... I just put that out there, didn't I? Someone else will write it now. That's good. I don't have time, to be honest. Someone else can write it. Plus, I'd be worried because my etiquette might
be the same.
Someone
Who
else,
cares? At least it's a baseline. Just give them a baseline.
Yeah, but that whole idea of the person in front of you, they're giving you their time, right?
Yeah.
And they're the most important person, not the text you just got through or the like you just got or whatever it happens to be. And so realizing that the devices are really cool because they can save that information for later on when you're by yourself. But if you're with someone, they're the most important person.
Yeah.
And don't look at your phone. Put your
Yeah.
phone away. Get rid of it.
I think with that, I've got my only notifications are my text messages.
Yeah.
I'm like, and phone calls, obviously, but that's it. Like any social, any WhatsApp, I just don't have them as a notification.
Mm-hmm.
No, none of the new, I've turned everything off because it is such a distraction. You're working and then, we talk about multitasking, which is a crock.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you've made it very clear in the book. It is an absolute crock. It's not multitasking, it's switch tasking. And you can't do one thing and then come back to it after you're not in that same mindset. So the notifications, I think they've just got to come off.
Yeah. Yeah, get rid of them all. There's no reason to have them.
No.
It's like the only reason to have them is so that the companies can make more money.
That's it.
Because they want your attention on the phones.
Yeah.
And I do, because I give a lot of community talks. And I often get parents coming to me and saying, well, I can't turn off all my notifications, because that's one of the things I recommend.
Yeah.
I can't turn off all my notifications because at work I need them, or and I have a very good friend who's a surgeon, and he has all his notifications turned off because he doesn't want to get distracted all the time.
Yeah.
And if people need him, they call him.
That's it.
Right? If there isn't actually an emergency, someone will call you.
Yeah.
And they
finally,
don't,
after 10 texts
they
will call.
Yeah. Right? If it is an emergency. Otherwise, you can check the text when you need to check the text, and that can be an hour later or 2 hours later or whatever it happens to be.
Yeah.
But if a surgeon doesn't need their notifications, I don't know who would. Really.
Oh, the one that drives me crazy is all the news notifications. I'm just like, who cares? Consume your news when you've got time, not when they're telling you it's time.
Yeah.
Or Trump's on something else that's stupid.
I mean, there's so much stupid stuff in the world. Why do you need to know about it? It's great when you don't know about it.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah.
Okay, so turn notifications off. What else would you put in your etiquette book?
No phones anywhere. No phones in the bathroom, no phones in the bedroom. I just find it bizarre that there are devices in either of those places. Because why do you need them in those places? And the only reasons you need them are for reasons that you shouldn't have them in those rooms, especially teenagers.
Yeah.
In my etiquette book, I would also talk about people being respectful towards each other, that we've got to realise that we don't know what's going on in someone else's life. And so therefore just slow down and don't. I mean, I saw it this morning when I was driving here, right? And the one spot that the cars merge, and the cars in front, a couple in front, wouldn't give to each other. And it's, what's the point of that? And aggressiveness in the driving, I think. So there'd be a whole big chapter on driving, because I think and having a daughter who's doing her having L plates on at the moment, the driving stuff has just been, I've been shocked at, especially guys in utes. Who will zoom in left lane to get past because they see that it's a learner.
Yeah.
And could cause an accident by doing that and being rude. And I think we just need to slow down and realise we're all actually just trying to do
the best
we can.
Yeah.
And sometimes shit happens, but that's
so it comes back to the pause.
Yeah. And you got to slow down.
Pause
and slow down and actually just enjoy this ridiculous life that we're living.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I recently read a thing on the fact that this is quite absurd, right? That we're on this rock in the middle of nowhere and we have the ability to think, right? And that's quite amazing that actually happened, but it's completely random. Yeah. And so our lives are completely random. So we should just enjoy the process we're here. Yeah, it's all absurd.
Yeah, so not be aggressive about it.
Yeah.
So beyond reducing screen time, what actually supports brain health?
So that number one thing is actually socializing in real life.
In real life. IRL.
So there's a Harvard study, which is called the Harvard study, because it's been going on at Harvard for 75 years. Yep. And about every 5 years, they release huge amounts of data where they've been studying hundreds of thousands of people. And all the behavioral psychologists get really excited by it and analyze all the data. And over the 75 years, the number one thing that's been shown to decrease the likelihood of you getting Alzheimer's disease and other neurodegenerative diseases, increase your lifespan by 10 to 15 years, increase your IQ.
Yes.
Decrease cardiovascular problems, so you're less likely to have a heart attack.
Yeah.
And you're actually physically healthier. decrease the likelihood of having mental health issues, and decrease all of the stress and anxiety and all those issues as well, is just sitting down and chatting with someone you trust on a regular basis, right? And that's all you've got to do. That's the best thing we can do for our brains.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is that we're social animals.
Yeah.
We're the most social animal, right? That's how we became this alpha species, right? Because we connected, and because we empathize with each other, and because we spend time with each other. And that's how our brains evolved, was to spend time with each other and trust each other. And loneliness kills us, right? Loneliness causes psychosis. Loneliness does mean that we die many, many years earlier than we should. It causes a whole bunch of other diseases in our bodies because of the fact that we need to be social. We need to be with each other. And that needs to be in real life. And the reason it needs to be in real life is because when you're on a device, you get dopamine, as we talked about before, but you don't get the other really important neurotransmitters. So when we meet in real life, the first thing we do is touch each other.
Yeah,
right?
yes.
So, and touch releases oxytocin, which makes us more connected to the person we just touched, which is really, really important. And then you've got body language and prosody of the voice and facial expressions and all of those things which release serotonin, which make us more, happier and more joyful, right? It's more about, being content where you are and actually spending time with that person. So we get those two neurotransmitters plus dopamine because it's telling us to search for more of this because it's important. But we don't get those two really important neurotransmitters when we're online. But we need them because they activate lots of areas of our brain. And there's great studies now showing when you're online versus when you're face-to-face, showing that when you're face-to-face, all these other areas of your brain are active. And again, it's use it or lose it. The most active thing you can do for your brain is to socialise.
Okay, good.
Socialise.
Yep.
Real life, with real people.
Real life, real people. Doesn't matter what you're doing, just talking to someone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And social media is not social, right?
No, it's
social
definitely not.
Advertising.
It is 100%.
Full stop. This whole idea that's out there that, kids need to be on social media to stay social or to stay connected with their friends is complete nonsense. It's not true. It's just not true. The evidence is not there.
Yeah. Okay. Good. And you've seen the evidence, so
yeah. No, it's definitely not there.
What role does sleep, movement, and recovery play in brain health?
Oh, lots. They're also really important. And that's a problem, right? The devices mean that we're not sleeping as much as we used to, which is really bad for our kids and for us as well, because of the blue light, but also because of the anxiety and cortisol. So just being on a screen release cortisol, which increases stress levels. Just opening a device. Doesn't matter what you're actually doing on them. And so that
even just opening a device.
Yes, yeah. You get an automatic increase in cortisol in your system,
right?
Which is really bad for your system. So just, opening it does that. And the actual fact, just having the phone on you increases your stress levels compared to not having it on you, and decreases your working memory and decreases your IQ, just having a device on you. So we're dumber just by having them. If we put them away, we get a little bit smarter just by putting them away. But sleep is really important because we go through 5 different stages when we're sleeping, and some of those are about getting rid of the neurochemicals in our brain that are left over from the day. And they can be toxic if we don't get rid of them. And then it's about rejigging our long-term memories so that we incorporate what we now know about the world into that, and so we're learning while we're actually sleeping. And then we go through what we talk of as REM sleep or dreaming, but it's not actually dreaming, right? What you're actually doing is you're going through lots of scenarios about what you did that day and how you can do them better. So you're actually learning how to do things better. Okay. And that's where you become innovative and creative. So we're not innovative and creative during the day. We are at night, which is why you get those light bulb moments. It's because you dreamt about it a couple of days before or weeks before or months before, because that all happens at night as well. And then you lay down new memories from that day from your temporary store. And you do that in reverse order, which is really interesting. So the last thing you did at night is the first thing that gets laid down in your long-term memory. Yeah, which is really interesting, which means the first things you did in the morning are the last things to get laid down in your long-term memory. So if you don't sleep enough, you don't lay down the stuff that you did in the morning.
Right.
Which is always ironic because schools always do the hard stuff in the morning because they're more alert. But if they don't get enough sleep, then they're going to lose all
But it's also in the morning, you're set on, you wake up, you're feeling good. Okay, yep, do the foundations, the basics, do all my habits. And then by the end of the day, you're like, oh my God, it's
I'm going
too
to just
hard.
look at a screen for a couple of hours. And yes, that's what's going to get laid down.
Yes.
Which is probably why everyone's depressed, because you're remembering all the stuff that you
all
watch
the bad
at night.
stuff rather than getting up in the
getting
morning
all
and
the
going
good
for
stuff.
work. Yeah.
But that's all good too. You should be getting up in the morning and doing exercise and seeing the sun and all that sorts of
seeing
things.
the sun.
Yeah, which is really good. But you then need to actually sleep long enough so that you can lay down all your memories from the whole day.
Yeah, okay,
not
good.
just part of the day.
Now, I said that I did have a little bit of brain fog, but I have noticed improvements with having creatine.
Yes.
What do you think about that?
Yeah, so there's a big meta-analysis of all the studies on creatine.
Yeah.
And it showed there was benefits to your memory.
Yes.
And your attention networks.
Yes.
Yeah. And it seems to be if you're lacking in your diet or you've got changes going on which are causing a lack of it, then it actually is beneficial. But that's the same for any supplement. You've got to be lacking in it to begin with for the supplement to actually help.
Yes.
And it's important for ATP, which is involved in creating energy, basically. And your brain uses 25% of the energy that you use every day.
Yeah.
And so it really needs a lot of energy. And that seems to be where it's helping. It's helping with the ATP transformation, which helps with the energy in your brain.
Okay.
And so, but it could be because of changes that are occurring.
Yeah.
Or it could be because of your diet's not sufficient.
Yeah.
But if you do need supplements, then it's usually because
something's lacking. Yeah. Okay, good.
But it is shown to be quite good for those two things.
Yeah.
Attention and memory.
Okay, good. Yeah. Well, I've found it helpful.
Well, that's good.
Do you think we've normalised screen use so much that we've stopped questioning it?
I think we've started questioning it again.
Yeah, okay.
Which is good.
Yeah.
I hope anyway. Maybe that's just who I mix with.
Maybe, yeah. Maybe it's your circle of influence.
Yeah. I mean, 7-8 years ago when I used to post things on LinkedIn, I used to get a lot of backlash from a lot of people.
Really?
Oh, yeah. You've got to remember that there was, even when with the social media ban, there was a lot of people who were arguing against it, including the safety commissioner, right?
Yeah.
She argued against it as well.
Well, the pockets were probably being large. Anyway. No.
There's something going on here.
Yep.
Who knows what? And there's a lot of psychologists and a lot of mental health groups that were actually arguing against
mental health groups were arguing against it.
Yeah, some. Yeah. But then if you actually look into it, a lot of those, some of those were actually being funded by,
of course,
social media companies. And so, and that's one of the big problems also that's happening in the UK at the moment is there's a lot of these groups that are actually arguing against it. But then if you actually look in the background, says they're getting funding from. Yeah. And there's programs in schools that are funded by or receive funding from these social media groups. And so they promote it, right? Rather than actually saying, actually, this is an issue. And so I think that's more people are aware of that, which is great, which is changing that. And I think people are just noticing the breakdown of cohesion in society, which is really sad. Yeah. And the political issues that we're having. And, do you really want to be like some people that we see on and they're crazy, right? And
the orange man over the other side of the world.
Yeah. I think he's been great because he's showing how crazy you can become.
Yeah.
If you spend way too much time on social
eating
media.
McDonald's, KFC, and on social.
Fanta. I heard he loves Fanta.
Are we being intentional with how we use technology, or are we just reacting to it?
I don't think we're reacting to it. I think it's been set up in a way that means that they're manipulating us.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we need to come to terms with that. And we either need to change the way we use it or we need governments to change the way they're allowed to actually do it, right? I remember during the social media ban discussions. I spoke to a lot of different politicians, and several of them, quite bizarrely, I thought, said to me after I talked to them about the social media and all the issues with it, they said, but if we legislate to control these issues, such as the algorithms running in the background and the likes and all these things, which we should be legislating against because it changes our behaviour, then these companies will probably go broke. Right? They'll probably no longer exist.
So?
And it's like, if these companies are unethical the way they're actually practicing now, and if you stop them, if you make them be ethical, they go broke, then they shouldn't exist in the first place, surely, right?
Yeah.
Whereas they have this strange idea that we don't want these companies not to exist. And I'm not sure why we don't want these companies not to exist if they are unethical, because we could make ethical versions of
Yeah,
this.
yeah. Well, I mean, there was one that tried to, but it failed, unfortunately.
Yeah, because it wasn't addictive.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And so if it's not addictive, then it's not going to work unless we get rid of all the addictive ones, and then we'll use the ones that aren't addictive in a positive way.
Yeah.
Because it's an amazing technology.
Yeah.
We could be using it for good if we wanted to. But currently we're using it to allow a couple of multinational companies to make huge amounts of money and manipulate everything from politics to our kids' education.
Yeah.
Which is really scary.
Yeah. I was just thinking, do you think we as adults don't allow ourselves to be bored as well, which is why we turn to the device?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I think boredom, again, is really good for us. Right?
Yeah.
And just not even being bored, right? Read a book.
Yeah.
Occasionally, right?
Yeah.
Sit down and actually read a book. I have a lot of parents come to me after my presentations and say, how do I get my kids to read more books? Because I want them to read more books. Because we know that's they're going to be more successful later on in life the more books they read when they're kids.
Yeah.
And my first question is, how many books do you read a year?
Yes.
And most of the time they'll say,
no.
Well, I'll say, I read when I'm on holidays.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, your kids are going to do what you do. So if you're reading a book regularly, your kids will read a book regularly. I will read and sit on the couch and read. And often my son will come and sit beside me and read, or my daughter will come and sit beside me and read, right? Because they don't turn on television because I'm reading, because that'd be just rude.
Yeah.
Right? Again, etiquette book, right? There's a part of the etiquette book. Turn off your TV.
Even with that, so we do a reading club. So, because the schools still say you have to read 25 minutes a night, not that anyone does, and our kids were not, or my kids were not doing it. So we do a reading club now where before bed, I'll lay in my daughter's bed next to her. Nice. I'll be reading, she'll be reading, and same with my husband, with my son.
Yeah.
Because if you're doing it,
they do it.
They do it.
Yeah. And it makes such a big difference later on.
Yeah.
Often, well, not anymore, but I used to often get asked to talk about with HSC students and stuff about how to get into university and how to. My first question is always, what do you think is the most important thing to be good at to become a neuroscientist? And you're always getting mathematics or engineering or all these things. And I said, no, it's actually being able to read, because you get a big textbook that you'll have to read. It doesn't matter what subject you do.
No.
You're going to get a textbook and you have to read it. It doesn't matter really what profession you're going to. You're probably going to have to read and be good at reading. Even a plumber, right, has to be able to do quotes and all these things and understand how the stuff works and all the rest of it. And so, reading is so important.
Reading.
And so hard.
Yeah. Well, it is.
Which is why it's...
It is.
Yeah.
Like even with reading your book, I read it while I was on holidays and then read on the plane back, like just because it was the only time that I could actually sit down and do it.
But it's easy to read.
Club. It is. You know what? It is a really easy book to read, which is why I got through it. So thank you. Yeah. How should we be thinking about things like AI and what's coming next?
Yeah. What's coming next is a bigger problem than AI, I think. AI isn't causing the problem that everyone's arguing it's causing.
Yeah.
Actually, I was reading the other day and they were talking about the top 500 companies in the world, and that they surveyed the CEOs of those companies and found that the vast majority of them hadn't seen any redundancies as a result of AI, right? This whole idea that it's going to take over the world is just ridiculous. The only area that is taking over is actually programming, right?
Yes.
Which is ironic, right?
Yeah,
programmers actually made this thing, which is actually really good at doing what they do, and now they're all losing their jobs. But apart from tech area, it's actually not causing a problem. And the biggest growth area in employment is health, right? So if you want to make sure you've got a job in the future or your kids have a job in the future. Get them to look at areas in health, whether it's OT or psychologist or
and trades,
doctor or
trades
GP.
as well.
And trades, yeah. Oh, you hit round here, definitely. And so they're things that you need to actually be really good at interacting with people, right? And talking to people, and whether it's trades or it's health area. And so I don't see it making a huge difference in those areas. I do worry about things like the glasses, and that's going to even be more addictive, and people are going to be more cut off because of those things.
Right.
And
because it's the constant barrier.
Yeah,
like it is constant.
And then and the safety concerns are around that too, because they're videoing everybody as they're walking around, and then the face detection, and they're really worried about safety of kids and all the rest of it. That worries me, and the other wearables also worry me, because they're going to have more and more data on us, and what we like and what we don't like. I mean, you've got to, so on social media, we know that on Instagram, for example, if a teenage girl deletes a photo of herself within 500 milliseconds, she'll start getting advertising from cosmetic companies. If she deletes a photo of somebody else, that doesn't happen.
Yeah, right.
And the reason for that is they realize that she's feeling bad about herself, about how she looks, and so they target her, right?
Yeah.
And by having wearables, of course, they're going to be getting more data than that. And so those things concern me more than the AI. Because AI isn't intelligent, right? It's artificial intelligence. Artificial means fake, right?
Yeah.
So it's really fake intelligence. So it's pretending to be intelligent, but all it's doing is regurgitating information that's out there.
Yeah.
Which is why a lot of them had to be turned off, right? Because they were learning based on what was on the internet, and what was in the internet now, majority of it's AI. And if you learn from yourself, then you get dumber. And so the AI started getting dumber, so they turned it off, right? Because it can
It's just
only
replicating
learn.
the humans.
It's just yeah.
We're all getting dumber.
Yeah. So, and the people who are going to flourish in the future are those that are going to have really good communication skills.
It's about being a human.
Yeah,
it is all about everyone will flourish if you're a human.
If you're real. Yeah.
If you're real, if you're authentic, if you can have a conversation, if you can read people, if you can present, if you can sell, if you can, all of those things.
But that'll never go away.
No, never. What does using technology well actually look like?
Yeah, using it to benefit you rather than to benefit the tech companies, right? They make money when you're looking at the device. That's when they make money, because they sell advertising. So what they want is you looking at the device. And, productivity apps, most of them make you less productive, right? We know the step counters. If you get a step counter, you're more likely to put on weight afterwards, because you do the 10,000 steps, which there's no evidence 10,000 steps is what you need to do, and then you reward yourself, and so you end up putting on weight because you're not doing as much as you should. There isn't really any of those things that actually help us. Social media is not social, right? If it says it does one thing, then it probably does the opposite.
Something else. Yeah.
And so think about what actually benefits you. And so for me, my device is, I have a phone, and it's great if somebody wants to contact me, because, we'll do this. I haven't touched my phone since I knocked at the door downstairs, and I won't touch it again until I leave. And when I get back to my car, I'll check to see if I've got emails and all those sorts of things. And if I don't, that's great. And if I do, I can reply to them. And then I'll put it away again, and I'll do another couple of hours of being in the real world.
Yeah.
And then I'll check it again.
Yeah.
And that's what it's really good at. It's good at saving stuff.
Yeah.
And so, putting it in a place where it's good at what it does.
I always say that my mobile phone is for my convenience, not yours.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's another one of those etiquette things, right? Is getting away from this idea that everybody needs to be contactable all the time.
Yeah.
Because we don't.
I'm not saving lives. So I don't like.
Yeah, exactly. I don't need to be bothered all the time by people. And we need to move away from that.
Yeah.
And it's one of the things that did frustrate me when I was at the university, because I used to have over 1,000 students in my first year neuroscience course. And a lot of them would expect me to respond within, an hour or two. And so I would say I respond once a week during this period of time. And that's it.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't respond outside.
But you're managing their expectations as
Yeah,
well.
exactly. And they'd solve things themselves. I got a lot less emails
knowing that.
knowing that I was only because they went, oh, I better work out if I can fix it myself.
Yeah.
Up until that time,
Yeah.
and they do.
Yeah.
And even teenagers, a lot of people say to me, "How do you let your teenagers like out and doing their own thing and all the rest of it?" And it's like because they solve the problems,
Yeah.
you know. Yeah, occasionally the bus doesn't turn up, so they got to wait for another one,
Oh.
or they got to find another one, or they didn't get the lift that they thought they were going to get in the lift from a friend's parents, and so they have to work out another way to do it.
Yeah.
And it's good for them.
Oh, it is.
Really.
It is. Okay, rapid fire round. One myth about screens that needs to go.
Just one.
Yeah. You're going to have, I'm sure you've got 20, but you know, the top one.
The top one would be that social media is social.
Yeah, okay. I think that's a good one.
Yeah.
It's, yep.
Not at all.
One thing parents get wrong about screen time.
I hear a lot that screen time that kids need to learn how to be on devices for their futures, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's not true because screens they're ubiquitous because they're so easy to use, and so you don't need to learn how to use them. They just I don't know a 5-year-old that can't use an iPad. I mean, that's just nuts. They're not. You don't need to learn how to use a screen. No. Sorry.
Okay, good. One simple rule every family should have.
No phones in bedroom, bathroom, or at the dinner table.
Okay, good one.
Well, no devices.
No devices.
So,
yeah.
Now there's lots of things.
Yeah. One habit that improves focus quickly.
Turn off all your notifications so you're not being distracted.
Okay, I love
and
that
it
one.
improves mental health as well with internet.
Yes, I agree. Yes. Your mood in one word right now.
Energetic at the moment.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Well, and is that just because you are inspired by doing stuff that matters?
Yeah, I suppose so. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. Someone asked me, what's your end goal? And I said, my end goal would be that I don't have to do this anymore so that I can just write books.
Your etiquette book.
To the point,
yeah.
So it gets to the point where, there isn't this problem anymore. So I'm out of a job. That'd be fantastic.
Okay.
Yeah. I'd love to retire.
Yeah. What's one truth about screens and the brain that we're all ignoring?
That is actually causing brain damage. That is actually changing our brains in a negative way. That is going to be a big issue in coming decades because we're going to see the result of it when people get a little older.
Okay, good. And then last question. I'm 50 in under 2 years now. What is one thing that you recommend that may push me that I should try before I do turn 50?
Oh. Do you surf?
I grew up in Noosa, but I'm not very good at surfing. Yeah. And the sharks at the moment, like, come on.
No, dude. So likely to. One thing you should try. Yeah. I think everybody should volunteer. So that's one thing I think is really, really important. Yeah. I'm a surf lifesaver, but I also do a whole bunch of other volunteering stuff. Yeah, volunteering I think is really, really important. So if you don't volunteer, you probably do volunteer. If you don't,
I
you already do volunteer.
I
See, I don't know enough about you.
But see, I volunteer enough at school, but I think it's in the community that I probably need to be volunteering more.
Yeah. Volunteer, do something in the community that helps other people.
Yeah,
I think is really, really important. And it's decreasing in society dramatically in recent years.
Yeah.
And it benefits the person who's volunteering.
Yeah.
It does the people that you're actually helping.
Yeah.
It really does. And there's lots of evidence for that. And you feel part of the community.
You do.
Yeah.
And like
my son gets upset because when we walk around our area, everyone stops and talks to me because I know everybody.
But isn't it a good thing?
But he loves it too.
Yeah.
He has a joke about it. But he's as social as I am. So
I get in trouble for gas bagging all the time. I'm like, what? I'm just checking in. Yeah. Like, as you said, it's the number one thing to make me live longer.
Yeah. You're ticking it off, right? And you won't have as many mental health issues later on. So
yeah, true.
This is so good.
Yeah. Okay.
Save you a fortune.
Yeah. Keep gas bagging. That's what that's what I can go back to my kids now and saying. Okay, Dr. Mark, thank you. Thank you very much for this conversation. Because your work, it really is important and it really does highlight that it's not just about limiting screens. It's about building better conditions for our brain and making sure that our brain is healthy for the long term for not only ourselves, but also for our kids. And that sleep, movement, connection, being social, stillness, pausing, real world connections are supposed to be lived, and how we do actually live a better life together. And we live that through all 5 senses. So as you said before, it's the touch, the smell, it's the just being in a room, it is being present. Because if we don't have that, we don't really have much else to go on. And I think that what really stayed with me from your book is that when we choose presence over distraction, connection over convenience, we're not just managing screen time. We're shaping how our kids see us, how they will behave, and how hopefully they will teach people beyond them to behave as well. And we're shaping how they think, how they feel, and hopefully how the next generations will be. And it feels like something that is definitely worth that investment and in getting it right. So, Dr. Mark Williams, thank you again for helping us understand what's really going on with our brain, with screens, and how we can change our habits into making them good habits and good technology use. And if anyone wants to learn anything else around Dr. Mark's work, I will put everything in the show notes, link to everything. We didn't talk about Brain Camp. Oh, I saw Brain Camp and was like, that's an amazing thing. I want to know more. So I'll put that in the show notes as well. And if this episode has made you think about how you use your screen, has made you think about how you get your kids to use their screens, or trying to stop them using them and be present in real life, please share it with anyone, because I think it's a conversation we need to have, not only with ourselves, but with the kids. So thank you. And fuck, I'm nearly 50, and isn't it amazing?
Thank you, Deb.